Clay Patton on the Rural Radio Network. We're here at the 2023 Nebraska Farm Bureau's annual meeting in Kearney. Some really great keynote speaking sessions going on, as well as some very interactive people having breakout sessions, discussing a lot of key topics that are important to agriculture, including Frank Mitloehner of UC Davis as well, director of the Clear Center. We're talking cattle and we're talking climate change. Frank, thanks so much for taking a little bit of time. Oftentimes, cattle are wanted to be made out to be the kind of the end-all evil, the livestock additive that is climate change, but you're taking a different look and a different approach of how cattle play in climate change.
Yes, I do, because first of all, the way that these impacts have been quantified in the past has been problematic. There had been a simplified way of looking at methane by just saying it's much more powerful than CO2, carbon dioxide, which is true, but what had been left out was the fact that methane is not just naturally produced by cattle, rice paddies, and so on, but also destroyed. And when you account for everything, then you get to different answers. Now, methane can be a problem if you don't manage it. Methane can be a solution if you do manage it. If we find ways to reducing this gas, then we reduce warming. And we have found ways to do that.
And so what are some of the ways that you see as ways to reduce the methane on the cattle side to reduce that warming issue as well?
So in California, where we are the leading dairy state in the nation, hundreds of dairies have now capped their lagoon. These covered lagoons trap the biogas, 60% of which is methane. And they take that biogas, clean it up, and make it into transportation fuels. And they receive carbon credits for that, making it financially viable. Doing just this one thing alone has achieved has allowed our dairies to achieve 1/3 of their methane reduction goal already. And they've been paid for it. Now, that is a way of getting somewhere where we work with farmers and not against them to achieve climate goals. In many other parts of the world, it's not that approach, but it's one of rules, regulations, fines, and taxes. That approach does not work. Working with farmers and not against them to get us where we need to go environmentally, that's the way to do it.
Frank, I love the fact that you're wanting to work with the farmers rather than tax or fine the farmers as a way to do it. When you're looking at these methane digesters, we see some new packing plants coming into Nebraska that are employing similar technologies to capture that methane and then find it as a way to either fuel and heat the plant, or as you said, maybe put it into automotive fuels and different things like that. What is the energy requirements to build these type of devices? Are they carbon neutral, or is there more going into them than what is being recycled and saved out of them?
Well, it depends on the time frame that we're looking. So normally it takes a few years for them to offset the emissions that were generated by building them. But just like, let's say, solar panels or wind turbines or so, after a few years, the amount of renewable energy they generate will offset the production of those plants.
Wow. Okay. So it's one that we need to be looking down the road. This isn't a solution for tomorrow. It's a solution for next year and 10 years down the road. So when we have the climate change conversation, we as farmers or those talking to the general public, what type of time frame do we need to be talking into? Because so much of the time we hear headlines, next year it'll be an environmental disaster, in 6 months it'll be an environmental disaster. What is a real time frame to look at?
So first of all, we already have environmental challenges. Every farmer in the state and in the states will know that we are living through climate extremes. We have long droughts, we have heat waves, we have wildfires, we have floodings, and in an intensity and frequency that we haven't seen before. I mean, I've lived in California for 21 years and I've seen it all. But I've also lived in Texas, and there I've seen it too. So we have to take this seriously because agriculture is affected by it. Agriculture can be part of a solution, but not next year. It takes a while. It takes investments of public dollars, also of private dollars. It takes more research. It takes farmers to say, look, this is not just a political agenda and some made-up stuff, but it's real. And we can be part of a solution. Why wouldn't we?
How many are working on your team at UC Davis that are actively looking at this on a fairly daily or timely basis to really try and disseminate and work through a lot of this information?
So I'm directing the CLEAR Center at UC Davis, and the CLEAR Center has two cores, a research core and a communications core. On the research core, we have 6 PhD students and postdocs and so forth. On the communications side, I have several journalists, filmmakers, social media experts, and that is equally important because if there's one thing that agriculture has not been good at over the last few decades, it's communicating with those people who need to know.
Frank, thank you so much for taking some time talking through us how, again, agriculture is not to be made to the bad guy. They're the ones to work with for a positive effect here on climate change. Overall, what would you say was kind of the reception to your ideas and your thoughts here at Nebraska Farm Bureau?
I think it was very good. I love talking to farmers, and I think they're open. They want to know what's real and what's not, and that's why I'm here to share that with them.
Frank, thanks again for the time. Before I let you go, final closing thoughts or important information I've overlooked?
Well, in my opinion, working with and not against farmers is what we need to do. We need to do this at the state level, at the federal level, and we need to do it internationally. That's the way to go. There's nothing more important than the food sector and the health sector. Let's not hail the one, the health sector, and poo-poo the other, the ag sector. We need the food because our farmers feed us.
As the old saying goes, we all eat at the same table. Farmers and ranchers are right there with us. That, again, is Frank Mitloehner joining us here from UC Davis, one of your keynote speakers and breakout session presenters at the Nebraska Farm Bureau's annual meeting in Kearney. You're listening to the Rural Radio Network.